Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. Hi, Michael. So we're the A team. Thank you so much for having us, and we're really excited to show you what we've come up with. And so basically, I'm Wahaj Beg. I'm a computer science major, and over the IFTP weekend, the problem that we worked on was connecting the world. And we were given different areas to work on, but in our research, we found out that the most unsatisfactory part of a customer's travel experience is always waiting in queues. So that was the main thing that we try to focus on and that we try to eradicate with our solution. Sorry, 1 second.
No problem.
Yeah. So basically, what we figured out was that there were a lot of people that were working on improving the customer experience at the airports. But one of the main problems is that they were always focusing on optimizing one particular part of the solution. So, for example, somebody will optimize passport control with immigration, somebody will optimize self-service baggage drops, but nobody was focusing on the problem and improving the whole customer travel experience from one end to another. And we also know that just focusing on one part, even if, for example, you've got amazing if you've got amazing things to do at the airport, but you still have to wait in long lines, it's still going to undermine the whole experience, right? So in our solution, what we try to do is we try to connect all of the aspects of air travel and allow data sharing between them so that we can basically improve the whole customer travel experience from one end to another. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the existing solutions. So basically, it represents that currently what is being done right now is that we're focusing on this one individual part, right? But in our solution, we're connecting all these different facets of air travel and allowing a seamless communication between them. And the reason we use a tree to represent this in the middle is because we think that as trees grows, our solution can also grow with time. And what we're going to propose in the next few minutes is basically something that can grow and always incorporate new technologies and always keep innovating without much overhead. So yeah, so Aslan will tell you now what our solution exactly is.
Hello, I'm an electrical engineering student. My name is Arsalan. So in the previous slide, you saw a ring connecting all the different areas of a customer's travel experience, right? So that ring was supposed to represent, as Wahid said, a seamless flow of data. So our proposal was to model an airport the way a smartphone is built. And we proposed a centralized network that exists just within the boundary of an airport. And it works with three key areas. The first key area is traveler profiles. We'll elaborate on every single one of these. So the first key area is a traveler profile. The second thing is backing data up to the cloud. And the third thing is hosting all that data on secure databases. Right. So when we were coming up with the solution, we were thinking if one of the reasons that people wait in line, especially in where we live, is they constantly have to hand their physical data over, their passport and their tickets and their boarding passes in three separate areas. And so we decided that what if we could come up with a smartphone application that would allow users to create a profile, and that profile would just migrate from the phone onto the network that is being hosted at the airport. What that would do is, as soon as the person walks into an airport and connects to the network, which could just be like a local area network, that data is already available the data is already present on the airport's database. So there is no need for that person to constantly hand over their passport or their ticket. The second thing is smart bags. We noticed that airlines had banned smart bags because of the presence of lithium-ion batteries. But we came up with an idea, which was if we could use passive RFID tags present in just one layer of the suitcase. It could be just the lock that you use to lock the zips together. That passive RFID tag could be read using any smartphone. We checked this, and iPhones have capabilities to read RFID tags and NFC tags, and so do all Android phones. So if you could store that information onto that application, and that information could also migrate to the airport's network. So what that would allow you to do is basically skip the baggage depositing lines. And I'll elaborate on this as we move forward.
Great.
Second area was backing it up to the cloud. So if all the data that was being generated at the airport and all the data that was being submitted by all the air travelers, that could be backed up to the cloud. And what that would allow you to do is pass that information on between all the different areas of the airport. So that would just be a holistic, it would be a holistic system. So if you submitted your biometrics at one airport, or if you got screened at one airport, there would be no reason for you to be screened again, or for you to submit any information once more during that one trip. And secondly, we were looking into design firms that had designed several airports, like the Changi Airport and the Dubai Airport. One of their designers said that if there was one platform that could offer data to other developers, what that would allow them to do is deliver tailored experience to travelers. So one thing that we noticed is nobody was developing solutions for this sort of holistic network. Nobody was developing a solution using data analysis techniques. So backing that data up to the cloud would allow them to do just that. The third area is data banks. So we were thinking of security, and we were also thinking that if, for example, I travel 3 times a year to visit someone, there could be a user profile of mine that's stored at Karachi Airport. And every single time I go to the airport, the only thing that could happen is my travel profile, which just contains information specific to the flight that I have to take today, that would be added to my user profile that's being stored on data banks that's a secure facility, basically. And for this idea, we were thinking that if we could back that data up every 12 hours or so, if we could introduce a delay, that would increase the security, because if somebody had some malicious intent, they wouldn't be able to use real-time data. But at the same time, that data would be available for user profiles to be constantly updated. Moving forward, so the data we were talking about, we shortlisted basically 4 different areas of the airport, 4 different stakeholders. So the first and foremost is obviously security. If somebody logs onto that network and they have their phone on them, it's very easy for the security team or the security personnel to ensure that nobody is doing anything that would be prohibited on the premises of the airport. And it would also allow for users to be held accountable. It would also allow for the air travelers to be held accountable. There would be no reason for somebody to go onto the PA and announce that please don't leave your bags, or they wouldn't need to say, please check into the plane, we're waiting for you, and planes won't be held up. So that would reduce delays there. The second thing is airlines. Using data that is generated at the airport, for example, how much time people are spending there, or where they're coming from, or what sort of celebration is warranting this mass travel. For example, a lot of Pakistanis will travel abroad during the summer, which is when we have Eid. So if that data is available, ensuring privacy, airlines could use that information to provide better on-flight services. The third area would be retailers. So for example, if the user profile, which is being created using the booking reference, if it contains, for example, there are 100 families on the airport that day from this certain region of the world. For example, they're all Southeast Asians, or they're all central from our area. And there's a lot of families. It would allow for restaurants, for example, to send them personalized offers. Like if you buy 3 meals from us, we'll give you 1 free, or if you come get a massage from here for couples, for example, they would have information about how much time they're spending and how they could tailor their services or their goods. The last thing would be lounge services. So we imagine that if an airport is being designed for customer comfort and customer satisfaction, there would be an in-house incubation team that could use this data, and it could figure out where a lot of people are spending their time. It could figure out where there's a lot of traffic being generated, and it could use that information to offer personalized tours throughout the facilities through the application. And it would also allow them to figure out which sort of exhibition or which sort of store people prefer while they're traveling. And all that data being offered on one platform would allow other developers to cater their services and fulfill a need if they find one. So from beginning to end, if there's, we're just going to walk you through how we envision this airport to work, right? So,
Okay.
So on your smartphone, you would need to install the SmartPort app, right?
Okay.
You could scan the barcode or the RFID chip on your passport to automatically generate a profile. So you wouldn't be able to tamper with age or name or gender or any of that stuff. And that would be the base. That would be the first basis of your user profile. You could also scan the barcode on your ticket, and that would generate a traveler profile. This would be travel specific information. For example, how many people are you traveling with? If this is a family, what sort of lounges you have access to. For example, if you're a business person and you have business class or first class seats. Once you have generated this profile, there's going to be an option on the application to scan the NFC or the passive RFID tag that's in your bag. This would allow the identity of that bag to be linked to that particular traveler's profile. Once that person comes into the airport, all they would have to do is just connect to the network, just like it's a Wi-Fi network. And the network would send a request to the smartphone, which would request all this information, and that data would be migrated to the network. Now the airport would be aware of which users are present and how many bags there are. Then if we have self-depositing like baggage counters, you could put your bag up, the bags could be scanned, and if they're accepted, they're scanned, and once they're deemed as, if the airport accepts the bag, it would just generate a message, and you would be told that this bag with this RFID number has been accepted into our system. Once you have deposited all your bags, you can use the smartphone app to submit biometric information. So we noticed that immigration lines, they gather three sorts of information. They either take your fingerprints, they'll take an iris scan, or they'll take a photo of your face. Smartphones, especially the new ones, they're increasingly capable and extremely secure when it comes to biometric information. And the proof of concept here was the fact that people use their bank accounts. People use these biometric readers to access their bank accounts. So in the smartphone, you could submit your fingerprints or your iris scan, and that would generate a QR code, which you could go then to the immigration desk, scan the QR code, and that will allow you to proceed forward. Keeping all this in mind, we did consider the fact that immigration laws in some places require a human person to approve the immigration. So we didn't completely eliminate the person. We thought that if this could be happening behind the scenes, and one final, just before the boarding notification, one final notification would be generated to the app, which would alert the passenger whether or not they were clear to fly. If they weren't, they could report to a security desk and get it sorted out. But at the same time, a large majority. So the design firm we were using for our research, they estimated that 99% of frequent travelers don't have any issues traveling from one country to another, international or domestic, whatever it may be.
Meaning they're not security risk.
So essentially, there isn't a security risk there. And if you eliminate 99% of the people standing in line, there's very little, it would be a very catastrophic failure for there to be a line being generated. That would almost never happen, right? So once you have once you've been cleared for boarding, the network could decide based on boarding zones what the most efficient way for people to board the plane is, and they could be given clearance to board, and then they could just go scan their QR code and walk through a barrier onto the plane. So this was our step-by-step guide. One final slide is, this was our vision for what we were developing. When we were thinking of the solution, we envisioned this as really the first iPhone. So the problem statement basically said, how would you envision the future of air travel? If you look back now, when you look at the first iPhone when it was unveiled, it's undoubtedly a step into the future. But if you take a closer look, all the first iPhone did was it integrated existing technologies better than anybody else. The iMate existed. There were other smartphones available, but the iPhone didn't. So that was one inspiration for us that when we were coming up with this idea. So in our mind, this could be like a brand that either Airbus builds several airports around the world. For example, Airbus could enter all the international hubs of air travel, and they could not sell this, but they could be the ones that develop this smart port. Exactly. And what that would do is this would provide a framework for other developers to hop onto this train. So when the first iPhone was unveiled, it was the only smartphone that was as good as it was. But 15 years down the line, you have the iPhone 10, but you also have Huawei and you also have Samsung, because they started to think in this particular direction because they were given that sort of framework to think about what a smartphone should be. So that's what we envisioned the solution to be, that Airbus would be the leader. Airbus would be providing this sort of framework, and they would be the ones that set the trend. And once you have several airports around the world that are Airbus smart ports, you can increase the amount of sophistication that the solution comes up with. So, for example, the security information, the security clearance that passengers are given could be loaded onto planes. It would just take 1 terabyte micro SD cards exist now. So it would take a small hard disk drive, for example. And what that would do is, as the physical plane took off, our metaphor was a virtual plane would take off with it. And as the passengers got off on their destination, that data would be migrated to the next Airbus smart port network. What this would do is this would allow those people who already have security. So Airbus would ensure, so this system would ensure that the people who are traveling need to submit everything once, and they would have a 100% a seamless end-to-end experience. That's what we came up with for now, but yes,
so
we do have
we
an
have an
application.
application prototype that I'll just walk you through.
Okay.
Okay, so can you see the application?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so basically this is our application. For example, it allows you to check your status, whether your passport has been verified or whether you've checked in or whether your luggage is verified, etc. Furthermore, you can scan your ticket QR codes, passport QR codes. Okay. And for example, you can use your phone biometrics to do your immigration, as Arslan suggested. No, I'm done with that. The guided maps, well, you could have online guided maps and tours. For example, that can guide you through the airport. Apart from that, you can have like profiles that you can link multiple profiles to a single profile. For example, if you're traveling with family, and you can also have all sorts of data about your travel, about your past travel plans and future travel plans, upcoming travel plans. Basically, there's a whole bunch of things that you can do. You can keep updating this app as new technologies become available. Would you guys like to add anything?
One thing we missed out on was the security lines that people get when they have to get their carry-ons checked and the person gets screened. We were looking into this technology that the Australian National University is developing. It's called molecular body scanners. And what that does is it uses electronic beam steering, and that would allow people to just walk through scanners that are just built into a hallway. So there would be multiple people walking through with their carry-on luggage, and there wouldn't be any reason for them to stop. And one added benefit of this, besides the fact that we eliminated lines, is that there would be no racial bias. we currently see this problem a lot, especially in air travel. So, yeah, the reason I brought this up is obviously because this is good technology that we were looking into, but also that because there doesn't exist anything at the moment that can properly eliminate security screening lines. If you recall, we mentioned that this solution was built in this, keeping this in mind that it would just be innovated on top of. So the smart port would come out with a smart port second generation, and that would eliminate security lines. And the third generation would do much more than that. So, and what that really does is, without incurring a huge cost of revamping the entire structure, you can just add solutions on, and you don't have to waste any of the work that was put into this infrastructure in the previous generations.
Basically, you're digitalizing the whole experience.
Exactly. So digitalizing the entire experience.
And just one thing that I would like to add to that is that even now that a lot of innovative technologies do exist, but they only exist in developed countries. What this approach would do is that even in developing countries, people do have smartphones. And since we're making everything mobile, we don't have to have huge investments to set up these Airbus, basically Airbus smart ports, but we can still have every sort of traveler from around the world have this sort of seamless experience that we envision for everyone to have.
So I'd like to show you a video which we like. It's a more like a brief overview of our concept. Can you see it?
It hasn't started yet.
Yeah.
I still see the smartphone screen.
Sorry. Yes?
That's okay.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Can you see it?
Not yet.
Okay, wait. Give me a moment.
No problem. By the way, this is I really like your presentation and I like your idea.
Thank you so much.
I see a lot of potential with this.
Can you
I
see
see your video now.
Hold on.
Just one thing. So basically, this video was made in the IFTP weekend only, and this just sort of briefly overviews everything that we've said up till now and what we imagine a traveler's experience to be like.
Once confirm if you can see it.
So can you
see it?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Excellent.
let's start. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I could get the idea of what your presentation was from that video. So that's really good.
Thank you so much.
You guys put a lot of effort into this, and
Yeah, we did. We really, we were so excited and happy to do it. So.
well, it comes through in your presentation and everyone's passion as you're speaking about it. So I congratulate you on doing a really good job. So do you envision this interface to be like an open software type of application where other people can add to it, like Apple, for example?
So we envision basically something like an app store that can exist for these airports where people around the world, people can innovate obviously on top of this.
But that particular SmartPort app would just be developed by Airbus.
Okay.
For Airbus.
Okay. So, no, I love the connection to that you've made with the technology, and it doesn't disrupt necessarily the infrastructure as much as it really disrupts how we go about moving people through the process and leveraging the information that already exists out there. So that's wonderful. How long? So this little app that you made for demonstration.
Yeah.
How long did it take you guys to do that?
So all of the work that you've seen, like the app, the video, all of that was made over the IFTP weekend only. So the most of this
Great.
is just that we've put in for 24 hours basically.
Yeah.
Well, that's terrific.
Thank
Well, this is very exciting. I love the thought that you've put into integrating all aspects of travel. I like the metrics or the data collection as far as I have 3 kids, so when my family, my wife Wendy and I travel with my kids, it would be kind of nice to have a pop-up that says 2 adults, whatever the food deal is, or if you buy a t-shirt you get one free or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what we imagined.
Yeah.
It also sort of counters the problems that a lot of retailers face at the airport, because people are not really into buying stuff anymore because they can get that stuff online. And so this way it will be a more targeted market sort of, which will be able to improve the sales and sort of improve the overall airport infrastructure, basically.
I was thinking that with this technology also, it's they give you a buzzer at a restaurant to tell you when you're ready for your table.
Yes.
So your phone, basically your phone's doing the same thing to tell you to board your plane.
Exactly, that's what it does. So if you saw in the video, the last part where I get the notification to board, that is when every aspect of my travel has been cleared and I'm cleared for boarding. So I'll just have a notification on my phone which will tell me to board. So there'll be no announcements, there'll be no noise pollution. So it's more comforting. The whole travel experience is just more better. Yeah. And apart from that, because we also, one thing we missed out, in the presentation was about the environment aspect as well. So because of all this, because a smaller area can basically process more people, a larger number of people in the same amount of time, we can have smaller airports now.
Right.
We can have smaller airports, and then apart from that, even just like, for example, there's a barcode paper that's generated for your baggage right now, right? So
right.
All of that's now completely mobile. So a lot of paper wastage is also sort of countered with this sort of implementation. So
that's great.
Yeah, so we couldn't exactly focus on the environment aspect, but with the user experience, we could sort of cater to the needs of the environment as well. And that, I think, was one of the best parts.
I think if you tackle this problem, then the rest of it kind of falls in place.
Exactly.
Yes, it does.
I can also see this as if you incentivize boarding the aircraft on time, because delays for flights is a problem.
Yes.
So if you show up on your, if you're ready to board at the time they say, and they buzz you sequentially as they, because they could manage the flow a lot easier if you're scanning onto the aircraft.
Yes.
Then the system will know how to regulate the flow of people into the line.
Exactly.
It saves a lot of human resources too.
Right. And at the same time, you might be able to incentivize boarding quickly by saying, you get a free snack if you're on time for your boarding,
Yeah,
It can
an
be
extra
done.
muffin
It can
when
be
you're
done.
on the
Yeah,
plane,
yeah.
maybe.
And even the boarding
or
hassle now, because
if you're early, if you're
Sorry, you were
early,
saying?
or if you're good about doing it and you're a regular customer, maybe they'll move you up in the priority list as far as who gets
There we
boarded
go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then even just like minor changes, like for example, the boarding notification can be generated based on your seat on the plane. So right now there's a hassle on the way people board the plane. Somebody could be far ahead in the plane, still boarding lost. But right now with this, the boarding notification could go out in a sequential manner based on the flight plan of the seat of the plane as well, which will also allow for a more smart and more efficient sort of boarding, which can be done and more hassle-free.
Oh, that's I grasp your concept, your vision. It's like it seems limitless as far as
Yeah, the possibilities are
Absolutely.
quite limitless.
well. Very good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is very exciting. What I'd like to do is I'll push your idea up back into our innovation team back in Europe.
All right.
And are you willing to share your presentation and then
Yeah, we'd love
have
that.
the possibility to present later on if that comes up?
We would exactly love that.
We would
Love
love that.
Yeah, truly.
Okay. Well, if we can, let's see. I got to figure out how to upload the presentation. Just the slide document that you guys created.
We have that.
email you a PDF if you like.
We can email it.
Okay. And I gave you my email address.
Yeah. Do you have it?
Yeah, I have your email address. Yeah, I have it.
Okay. So if you do that, then I'll do you guys have WhatsApp?
Yeah,
Yes.
we have.
Okay. If maybe is it Sawan?
Yeah, okay.
Could you create a group?
Okay.
And that way, if I have any conversations with Europe, at least I can communicate back to you guys as a team.
All right.
What
I'll make a group. Okay.
Okay, if that's okay.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's see. How will I get on WhatsApp? Well, I'm on WhatsApp already, also. So I'm old, so you'll have to help me with the technology.
That's
Okay,
perfectly
that's
fine.
fine. That's fine.
Okay.
You can just give us your number and we can add the WhatsApp group. Yeah.
Okay. I'll put that on
Teams?
Teams. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
That will be
All right.
That'll be perfect.
Okay. Well, guys, I really appreciate your time. Again, I really your enthusiasm and passion really showed through on these presentations. You all seem very energetic and excited, which is great. Are you guys? Is it engineering background, software engineering, anything like that?
So 3 of us are electrical engineering students, and
Okay.
only Wahaj is a computer science student.
Well, awesome. I applaud your effort. It's nice to meet people who are going to school for something they're passionate about. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot.
okay, I'll let you know what's going on. Just to tell you who I contact at Airbus in Europe, and hopefully they'll want to contact you and see what you have. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
That'll be perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
It was so
Michael.
nice to meet you.
It was nice to meet you guys too. You seem like
Thank you.
nice young gentlemen. So
Thank you.
thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Truly.
Goodbye.
You have a good day.
Have a good day.
Okay. Have a good evening, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 End meeting यहाँ पे
Where is
नाम
that
से
meeting?